Sonic Adventure is an important game. It marked the series' major jump to 3D, and was one of the first Sonic games I ever played. I remember faintly sitting at my old family's PC setup, playing the original PC release of the game. That I remember I was like 5 or 6, and I could never get past Chaos Zero, or at least don't remember getting past him. It wouldn't be till well after the likes of playing Heroes is where I find the disc laying around the house again. And from that moment on, SA1 will become one of my most played Sonic games. Sorry for the nostalgia jumping, but I want you to understand why SA1 is special to me. And to state now, after playing the game after so many years, SA1 has aged terribly. But I still love it. Well, most of it anyways. SA1 wasn't originally going to be the first mainline 3D Sonic game, as Sonic Extreme was going to be the Blue Blur's 3D debut for the Sega Saturn by the Sega Technical Institute, or STI, the same studio that created Sonic 2, 3 Knuckles, and Spinball. Still, of course, Sonic Extreme would be cancelled for various reasons, from poor communication between the American and Japanese staff, workplace politics, Yuji Naka not letting STI use the game engine for Nights for Extreme, as he felt only Sonic Team should be the one to use it, because Naka's a prick, and most notably was the horrid development cycle STI faced with heavy crunch, and some devs becoming incredibly sick to the point where even the designer, Chris Sheen, gotten so sick that he was given 6 months to live. Thankfully he survived, but yeah, no dev team should have experienced that kind of thing. And as such, STI would go defunct in 1996, and the Sega Saturn would become a commercial failure. Soon after, Sonic Team's Tadashi Asuka, after completing development on Nights into Dreams, would propose what he called a role-playing style Sonic game with a greater emphasis on story, which would be called Sonic Adventure. Iizuka would serve as the game's director, and Yuji Naka being the game's producer. It originally started its development on the Saturn, but again, the Saturn bombed, so it moved over to the Dreamcast. Uji Uokawa, who I mentioned in my Billy Hatcher video, would be charged of the character design and art, with Jun Senoue being the sound director and composing the soundtrack alongside other composers. Sonic Adventure was released in 1998 as a launch title for Sega's last console, the Dreamcast, in Japan, and in 1999 for the West, releasing on September 9th, 1999. It wouldn't stay on the Dreamcast forever, as it would be released on the GameCube and PC in 2003 and 2004 respectively as Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut. The version I'm playing is the HD release on the Xbox 360 and PS3, later Steam, though for the console releases it was only the base SA1, as you have to buy a DX upgrade as DLC. I don't know why, but that generation was filled with weird DLC practices, so I guess it was the norm back then. I'm also playing the SA1 HD release off my Series X, since it was made backwards compatible alongside other Sonic games. There's nothing different between playing on a 360 and a Series X, but hey, it's nice to at least have these games available on modern systems. Strangely enough, SA1 received a release on Steam in Japan in 2024, even though the rest of the world had it for over a decade now. Not sure why, but it was a funny little detail to learn while researching. So yeah, let's finally get into it. Let's talk Sonic Adventure. And, oh wait. We have 6 characters this time around to choose from. Well, not yet anyways. You have to meet them for the first time, either as Sonic or any other character to unlock them. But let's go one character at a time, starting with...
Let's get him!
One night while on the rooftops of Station Square, Sonic notices a commotion with the police and this mysterious water monster. Sonic jumps in and gives the monster a good bump to the head before it retreats. Sonic wakes up the next day to see his best buddy Tails crash land to Emerald Coast.
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
Alright, SA1 was one of the first 3D games to have voice acting. And yeah, it's not great, but it's more of a so bad it's funny kind of way. This VA cast gave us Ryan Drummond, who is one of my favorite Sonic VAs. He nails the cocky, attitude-filled character Sonic is, and this is where we enter the first stage of the game, Emerald Coast. Such a good stage to kick off this adventure, when not getting attacked by orcas anyways. Seriously, what's with this series on orcas? I think this is the best time to bring up the gameplay too. For what was the first attempt, Sonic in SA1 is one of the best he's been in the series, when it comes down to the controls and physics of him. I love how Sonic plays here. His jump is a little floaty, but I think it's perfect for platforming. While I do think Sonic in SA2 has tighter controls and it's great in its own way, Maya's everything being on one button, SA1's is still pretty damn good. The homing attack makes his return from Sonic 3D Blast. Yes, 3D Blast was technically the debut of the homing attack. It wasn't called the homing attack, but it was there. He's got the spin dash, which you can easily abuse to hell and back. It's pretty darn fun. SA1's controls and gameplay is pretty good when the collision detection doesn't screw you over. Yeah, I think it's because of the ports, from what I understand, that the collision detection could be off at points where Sonic and company get stuck on the terrain. I don't think I've died because of that, but I've seen plenty of clips online showing that, yeah, it indeed happens. What helps the stage is the music, and the game in general. I love SA1's soundtrack. It's got a wide variety of themes and style that gives each location its personality, and Emerald Coast is no exception. To get back to the plot, Sonic helps Tails back to the station, and he explains to Sonic that he was testing out his plane using the power of a Chaos Emerald he found. The two head to the Mystic Ruins to reach Tails' workshop, but before they could, Eggman decides to show up. I think it's also another time to bring up the voice acting again. Eggman was voiced by the late Dean Bristow, and he's personally one of my favorite voices for Eggman, and you'll see why later on in Tails' story. But in general, he does nail the hammy over-the-top personality Eggman likes to be. This would also mark the first time in the West that Eggman was called Eggman. Yeah, he was always called Eggman in Japan, but whenever the series first appeared in the West, he was called Ivo Robotnik. Why? Good question. I don't know. Robotnik does sound like a cool ass name though. And I think Sonic Team agree as Ivo Robotnik would be his official name, but everyone else would just call him Eggman. Probably to piss off the Doctor. And he just stuck with it to this day. Eggman steals the emerald and reveals that the water monster Sonic fought the other night is Chaos. Eggman plans to use Chaos to destroy Station Square to create his Eggman Land. The two escape, with Sonic and Tails now searching out for the rest of the emeralds before Eggman can, but it doesn't work out well since after finding 2 more emeralds, they just get knocked out by Eggman. Soon the two will encounter Knuckles, who decides to throw it down with Sonic after thinking he has the pieces of the Master Emerald. Oh yeah, Angel Island fell from the sky again, by the way. This is also where we're introduced to character battles and...
Oh no! Oh no! Give it your best shot! Oh no!
Yeah, they're a joke. During the fight, Sonic drops the emerald he and Tails got from Ice Cap, with Eggman taking it for himself. Eggman escapes with Chaos onto his airship, the Egg Carrier. Sonic and Tails try to board the ship using Tails' tornado, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of forget Sky Chase is a thing in this game sometimes. It's not bad, but it's basically Panzer Dragoon, but with a hedgehog and a fox. It can be a fun distraction, but I don't really go back to this, even though you gotta do this like 3 more times afterwards. The two end up getting shot out of the sky, with Sonic landing back in Station Square. Sonic meets Amy, and she asks him to help protect a little bird that's been following her. Amy is captured by one of Eggman's robots and gets sent to the Egg Carrier. Sonic tries to catch up with the carrier through Red Mountain, but Tails appears at the nick of time with an upgraded tornado, and the two board the Egg Carrier.
This must be the way to the sky deck!
After rescuing Amy and finding out one of Eggman's robots dubbed Gamma, Amy stops Sonic from destroying Gamma as he was the one who broke her out of her cell, and Sonic hesitantly agrees. Sonic tells Tails to get Amy out of there before the ship crashes while he deals with the Doctor. Sonic fights off Chaos once again, and now there's a random purple cat there for no reason. Sonic falls off the ship chasing after Eggman, and thankfully he doesn't suffer from fall damage. He notices a red orb heading into the nearby ruins where he finds a mural of Chaos destroying the lands, where Sonic is also shown a vision of the past where Chaos was once first released onto the world. By the way, get used to these flashbacks, you'll be seeing them often. Sonic returns to the present to see Eggman heading towards his base. Sonic fights him off one last time with him coming out victorious. Eggman retreats again, and Tails shows up to greet Sonic as the two stare out into the horizon, ending Sonic's story. This is the longest story in the game, by the way. Going forward, the other plot synopsis won't be as long, but of course, this is just only one part of the story. If it wasn't apparent, SA1's presentation has aged, most of which can be thanks to DX. Sonic Adventure DX not only brought the game to other platforms, but also updated some of the textures and models. And I say update in quotations, as some of the models, while they did get a nice update, are now incredibly shiny for whatever reason, even that night, and even certain models didn't get any upgrades. Even then, some of the textures can still look pretty bad. Like, look at the Egg Carrier, Jesus Christ, man. Despite those blemishes, SA1 has a nice variety of environments, making each stage memorable in its own way, be it the tornado-filled windy valley or the towering skyscrapers of Speed Highway. To get to these stages, you have to go through the game's hub world. This wasn't the first Sonic game to have a hub world in a way. Sonic Jam on the Sega Saturn had one, but these are easily one of the best hub worlds in a Sonic game. They're just about the right size they really need to. This is also where you can find character upgrades. Each character gets their own set of permanent upgrades that can help them with platforming and exploration. In Sonic's case, he got a few new things, including the debut of the Lightspeed Dash, and it's the worst iteration of it too. Unlike future games where it's just a simple button press to perform, in SA1 you have to hold down the Spin Dash button for it to charge. There is another upgrade that can reduce the time it takes to charge, but still it's a really big pace breaker. I mean, it can be pretty satisfying performing long chains with it, but in future games they make this ability way better. Well, for the most part anyways. Boss battles are more of a mixed bag though. While there are some good ones like the 8 Fiber, I generally do love this fight, it's probably one of the best in the game. There's Chaos 4, a fight that drags on for way too long. Not only that, but you have to fight for half the characters in the game with little to no changes. Also, the wire is weird as hell in this fight for whatever reason. Sonic's story is easily my favorite of the 6, but at least for the next 2 stories, there is still plenty of good stuff to go around.
Here I come, Sonic!
Tails' story is more or less the same as Sonic's. He tests his plane, it crashes, and everything up until the first Sky Chase Act is the same. The only difference is some lines are changed, and by change, I mean characters will say Sonic and Tails now instead of just Sonic. But Dean Bristow's performance as Eggman becomes way more sinister.
If it isn't Sonic!
Well, if it isn't Sonic and Tails.
One last little tidbit about the voice acting, that for SA1, 2, and Heroes, Tails is voiced by a child actor. A different kid for each game too, and they progressively get worse with each game. SA1's is probably the best, and honestly, I don't have too much of an issue with it. Some of the delivery can be strange at points.
It's Eggman! I wonder what happened to Sonic.
But again, it's not all that bad, honestly. After Sky Chase 1 is where Tails' story starts to become its own, where he recounted a memory where he first met Sonic, or at least that's what I presume this is supposed to be. Tails decides to stand up for himself and goes off hunting for the emeralds. He finds one in the Mystic Ruins after a frog swallowed it, and after changing into the sandboarding section, which he's the only character to do so in this frankly random as hell segment. It's also surprising they brought this area back for Team Sonic Racing. Yeah, remember that game? Tails gets jump scared by a giant purple cat, and thanks to the emerald he acquired from the frog, he uses the power of the Tornado 2 to meet up with Sonic at Red Mountain. And it's mostly the same again for this bit, where he helps Sonic rescue Amy, and the two make it back to Station Square. Tails notices that Eggman crash landed into the square, and Eggman basically says, "Fuck it, we're nuking this bitch."
Ah! No, it was a dud!
Now how the fuck was it a dud? You know, for a genius, you can't make missiles worth shit. Tails disarms the bomb with the two fighting out in front of the casino. And again, Dean's performance.
Away, before I make mincemeat out of you.
Tails saves Station Square with him meeting up with Sonic, ending Tails' story. Tails' story, or at least towards the second half of it, is about him learning to have courage to stand up against Eggman on his own and fight his own battles. You know, a little bit of character development, for what very little there is in this game. Tails, like Sonic, has about everything he had in the past. He can fly for a short bit before getting tired out and dropping like a rock. Tails does get this ribbon that makes him breakdance, so that's something. All stages are races to the end, and I'm assuming as a friendly competition with Sonic. It makes more sense for Eggman to stop him from rearming the bomb. However, you have to intentionally be slow in order to lose these races. Not sure what else I can say without repeating myself, but Tails' story is pretty solid, significantly shorter than Sonic's, but I still think it's a fun time.
Okay, let's go!
Okay, so we technically start at the beginning of the story this time around. One night while Knuckles is guarding the Master Emerald, it's shattered, releasing a glowing red orb, and chaos. Knuckles attempts to fight off the monster but ends up escaping the shrine anyways, and since the Master Emerald was destroyed, Angel Island starts to fall to the lands below. Side note, the FMVs in the HD release doesn't play the full video for whatever reason, and it's kind of annoying. Knuckles is now hunting for the pieces of the Master Emerald starting in Station Square. After some time finding the pieces and destroying a statue in the casino, yeah, fuck you, Sonic. He's given a vision of the past, and I guess this is also a good time to explain a couple of things. The girl we see in the past is Tikal, who guards the Master and Chaos Emeralds, and the child that lived near it. She tries to convince her father to not take the emerald by force, believing that violence is not the right way to peace, but of course he refuses and we get sent back to the present. Knuckles notices Eggman and follows suit. He confronts the doctor asking him to hand over the pieces of the Master Emerald, but it just turns out to be a Chaos Emerald. Chaos reappears and now becomes Chaos 2. We've seen Chaos 0, 1, 2, 4, and 6, but never 3 or 5. I wonder what those would look like. Eggman informs Knuckles that Sonic is also searching for the pieces of the Master Emerald, and despite knowing that Eggman lied to him in the past, like in Sonic 3 and K, Knuckles believes him anyways because he's the knucklehead he is. After some more emerald hunting, Knuckles fights Sonic, Eggman turns on him because of course he does. While Sonic and Tails try to catch up with the carrier, Knuckles returns to the shrine to restore it, however there's still a good chunk of it missing. Thanks to the Master Emerald's holographic technology, it reveals that the last pieces of the emerald are on board the egg carrier. And thanks to a random Eggman robot that just dropped out of nowhere, Knuckles follows him to the base where the ship is located. Since we're now on the egg carrier, I want to say that Knuckles' final stage can be a bit awkward. Use this lever in the stage to change the direction of everything, and it causes everything to be really funky. Oh, watch out, no! Oh, anyway, he's fine. Knuckles finds the last of the pieces, but before he can return to the island, Chaos reappears again, and Knuckles swiftly takes him down, seemingly for good this time. Hopefully. Maybe. Knuckles finally returns to the Master Emerald, still contemplating to himself that he'll be alone, guarding the Master Emerald forever, except no he doesn't, ending Knuckles' story. Knuckles stages play out like treasure hunts. You have a radar that's on the bottom of the screen that'll clue you in if you're getting closer to the pieces. You'll be able to detect the pieces in any order you feel, and Tikal will be floating around if say you're having trouble finding them. They can be pretty fun since most of the stages are small to where it doesn't feel like you're going in circles trying to find these little green Jolly Ranchers, though at the cost of them being pretty short. Out of all his upgrades, there's only one I consider really useful. The others kind of feel pointless, like these yellow gloves, which I forget the name of them, so let's just call them the piss yellow gloves. Oh, except for the Chaos 6 fight. Yeah, eat shit. Pretty good stuff still. But this is where the quality really starts to drop, starting with the next story.
It's my turn now!
Amy is seen walking along in Station Square when all of a sudden the egg carrier decides to show up. Something falls out of the sky hitting Amy, and it turns out to be a random blue bird. Before she can process what the blue bird wants, a random robot decides to show up and try to capture her and the bird. Amy escapes the bot with her soon finding Sonic. The two decide to go on a date to Twinkle Park. By the way, the monitor she's looking at isn't in Sonic's story. Oh, the robot's named Syrup, by the way. Okay, so Amy's first stage is Twinkle Park, and I want to bring up this random as hell segment in her first stage. It's this hall of mirrors that only appears one time for Amy's story and no one else's. It's a generally pretty eerie area of the game, and what doesn't help is the music that plays here. Why is there a baby Google in the middle of the fucking song? So Amy gets caught by Zero and now is imprisoned on the egg carrier. Gamma releases her from her cell, and before she can find a way off the carrier, Eggman shows up to steal a Chaos Emerald that was in the bird's locket. Amy escapes thanks to Tails, and now we're back in Station Square again. Though strangely enough, the events of Tails' story doesn't seem to be happening again, since, Eggman was trying to bomb the city. Amy promises to find the bird's family after seeing a photo of it in its locket. Amy does find them, however, on the downed egg carrier now, but before the birds can fly away, Zero appears out of nowhere to snipe the blue bird. Guess Eggman forgot about him. Amy defeats Zero once and for all, and the birds fly off together, ending Amy's story. This goes for the next two stories as well, but Amy's story doesn't have much significance towards the overall plot besides the Chaos Emerald and the bird's locket. I don't really have a mind when it's like its own separate plot from the main plot, but I don't know, it's not that interesting enough. Hope you like being chased because that's all of Amy's stages. Even though Zero is a complete joke, there are also barrels and whatnot you can hide in, but why would you do that? Zero can easily be swatted away with Amy's Pico Pico hammer, and which I'll give her gameplay some credit. It can be pretty fun in launching Amy into the air. It feels nice to do it because besides doing that, Amy is naturally slow, unless you're running upstairs. You end the stage by grabbing onto the balloon at the end, and thank God Eggman did not equip Zero with a gun, otherwise we'd be fucked. Amy's general portion is whatever. I don't hate it, but I have no interest in playing your stages. Well, at least smacking Zero at the end is pretty satisfying. One last thing, what's up with the lyrics in our theme?
Sticks look so cute. I had to shave it.
Hold on, Froggy. I'm coming.
Big is seen sleeping at his house, meanwhile his pet frog, Froggy, spots something moving around. It attacks Froggy and now gives him a tail. Big wakes up to notice Froggy looking a bit different. The frog decides to swallow the chaos kernel that's next to him. I know this is common knowledge now, but Big the Cat in this game was voiced by John St. John, who is best known for the legend himself, the menu guy from Sonic Advance 3.
Sonic Advance 3!
Big's story becomes him chasing Froggy around, catching him, the frog escaping his grip again and again. Big somehow ends up on the A carrier where he fights Chaos, and by fight I mean he fishes out Froggy. Also, the tail that Froggy had was Chaos's tail, and that's really the only significance Big's story has. Big manages to escape the crashing carrier by using the tornado. Yes, that means Big has a pilot's license, even though he somehow managed to barely fit in the damn thing. They make it back home, and that ends Big's story. Remember I said you better like being chased? Well, you better also like fishing too, because that's quite literally what you do in Big's story. Just fish. Nothing more, nothing less. All you need to do in Big stages is just find Froggy and capture him. Making the stages is quite short if you know what you're doing. There are other fish you can catch, but that's only for the other mission ranks, or if you're just bored, I guess. Personally, never really bothered with this. All of his upgrades besides the life belt practically are only there to help catch bigger fish, which again, I don't really care. I would joke about how you can use the Sega bass fishing peripheral for these stages, but it turns out that was a lie. Whatever, let's just move on to the last story.
Preparation complete.
Gamma tests out one of his new E-Series robots dubbed E102 Gamma. Gamma is put up against his older brother E101 Beta to see who will serve Eggman on board the A-Carrier. Gamma is the winner, but Beta still gets brought on board for what the Doctor calls spare parts. Gamma, along with 3 other E-Series robots, are given the task to find the tail frog. Gamma finds the frog before the others can, and because of that, the other robots are taken to God knows where. Eggman orders Gamma to head to the cells to get the bluebird for Amy. Gamma, however, accidentally runs into the wrong room where Beta is seemingly being experimented on. Gamma frees Amy, he fights Sonic, and Amy convinces Gamma to stop listening to the Doctor. Gamma escapes the ship, now on a journey to free his other brothers from Eggman's controls, by shooting the ever-living shit out of them. Thank God none of the birds and the bots don't get burned to a crisp. Gamma successfully rescues 3 of his brothers, but before he can decide to destroy himself, Beta is seen flying towards the center of the downed aid carrier. Gamma and Beta face off one last time, but the two end up destroying each other in the end. The animals are now free, ending Gamma's story. Gamma's stage is about him just blasting everything to hell and back. You have to do this as Gamma has a timer. Blasting stuff will fill up the timer gradually. Not sure why he has one to begin with. I guess he has a self-destruction switch that goes off if it hits 0. It can be fun blasting through the stages, destroying stuff, but these stages can be very brief, and they're not that many to begin with either. You do get a hover later on, in which that can be pretty fun. The battles between the E-Series robots are also very piss easy. You don't really have to move, you can just stand there and shoot it, and you win. The fight with Beta at the end is easily the best fight Gamma has, and probably one of the best fights in the game in general. Also, the track that plays here is an absolute banger. Well, no, that's all 6 stories. But we're not done yet, as after finishing all 6 stories, there's one last story that gets unlocked. So let's finish this off with... oh yeah, the Chow card. This is an entirely optional part of the game that lets you take care of these tiny little creatures called Chow. It's a massive time sink to raise and train these little guys. I didn't spend much time here, but yeah, back in the past, I certainly spent a hell of a lot of time in these areas. I didn't know where else to put this little segment, but let's get back to the main game now. It's time for Floating Yellow Question Mark. Eggman is seen wandering through Mystic Ruins saying how much he hates Sonic, of course. Eggman is suddenly attacked by chaos out of nowhere. Meanwhile, Angel Island starts to fall from the sky again. Even though the Master Emerald was restored, something is wrong with the shrine. Knuckles presumes that the Chaos Emeralds are likely the reason for it. He soon notices Eggman lying on the ground nearby, and before he can process anything, Chaos sneaks up on him. Elsewhere, Sonic is seen resting under the tree. That's when Tails decides to run up, or I guess slide in this case, telling him that the island fell again. He thought the waves and rumbling from it would be enough. I guess Sonic's a very heavy sleeper. The two make it to the shrine to find both Eggman and Knuckles injured. Knuckles tells Sonic that Chaos took the 6 emeralds he had. That's when Tikal decides to show up, thinking it's the best time to reveal to Sonic how Chaos was once freed onto the world, unleashing his power after her father decides to try to take the shrine by force. She ends up sealing herself and Chaos within the Master Emerald to ensure that the world cannot be destroyed. And since, again, back at the beginning of the story, when the Master Emerald was shattered, Chaos in her was released. Sonic snaps back to reality, and soon him and Tails find the last Chaos Emerald that's in Tails' tornado too, but Chaos beats them to it. We cut back to Station Square, seeing Chaos is wreaking havoc onto the city, flooding everything in its wake. With little to no casualties. Seriously, the streets are completely empty by the time the flooding starts. Also, here's Chaos in the FMV. Pretty cool, right? Damn, he's just a wet noodle now. Chaos uses up the energy of the Chaos Emerald, and Eggman attempts to take down Chaos with a second egg carrier that he casually has lying around. Gotta always have that second chip just in case, I guess. But it doesn't work as it gets blown out of the sky. Everything seems hopeless until Tikal decides to show up to inform that Chaos only absorbed the negative energy of the emeralds. Sonic uses the positive energy to become Super Sonic. Okay, so SA1 introduced a lot of things, but this is also where Crush 40 made their debut to the series. And man, talk about an amazing first impression. Oh, damn music transition. After many more bonks to the head, Chaos is neutralized. Now Tikal and it can return to once they were peacefully.
All's well that ends well, right?
Station Square is still in ruins, so I guess Eggman can build Eggman Land. But Sonic runs off into the sunset, ending Sonic Adventure's story. Despite the many stories, it's still a rather basic plot. The issues I have with it more stem from how the later half feels like fluff. Like, why do some of these characters get flashbacks? They have no reason to know any of these segments. Like, what is Big gonna do with this? If you didn't get enough out of the main story, there is mission mode that DX brought in. There are 60 of these missions that are scattered across the hub worlds. I didn't spend much time on this either since I felt the main game was enough for me, but it's a nice bonus anyways. A lot of which revolve around the burger shop guy, which is Sonic X. Sonic 06. Sonic 4 Episode 1. Oh god. It's getting worse. Oh god. Oh god. Oh wait, never mind. Sonic Unleashed is there. I'm not sure if I can recommend SA1 as someone's entry point to the series. It's dated terribly in many areas. Half the roster is whatever. However, I think it has some merit playing it, or at least appreciating what there is and what they tried to attempt, even if it all wasn't that great. I know I'll sound like a broken record repeating what everybody else wants, but I wouldn't mind a remake of this game. I think it's just because of how fondly remembered this and SA2 were, is why Sega is hesitant to do one. As of now, it's not happening. But if it were to happen, I wouldn't mind it. Despite what I said, I think you should play Sonic Adventure. Just be mindful that it may be a bumpy experience. Well, I've been Sonic Man, and I thank you for watching. Have a good day, or night, or whatever, and take care. As for next time, well, I think it seems fitting that we go on to its sequel.